Today, we're going to talk about the topic of the tower in our upcoming book, Tower Time. And what we're going to focus on is exploring the tower as an ally. And what does it mean? Can the tower ever be an ally? And of course, I say this with the provision, of course, that yes, it was everything kind of seemed to be going wrong and falling apart here today. And yet here we are. We've made it. We've gotten through the tower to this moment.
We have. So, what is a tower? No, laying the foundation.
Hmm. Well, we can look at it as the actual tower card, right?
Mhm.
And do you have one on hand?
No, was I supposed to?
No, I just thought of it just now. It'd be oh, we should have show and tell here, and I don't have one on hand either. So that's kind of I'm gonna go grab one real quick. But I will say, I'll share my definition of the tower is that the tower is a moment that is existentially challenging to face because everything as you know it is falling apart. And the question is, can you get through it? That is basically what we're dealing with when we look at the tower. I'm going to go get a card. Why don't you share what your definition of tower is? I'll still be listening.
Yeah, so we started with the tower card in the tarot, and it is, there's lightning striking and there's flames and there's people falling out of the tower, and generally when it comes up in a reading, it's kind of viewed as a very negative thing. It's like it's disruption. It's, you know, very much the energy that we're living in daily. And tower times can be like individual moments, and they can also be like sometimes it's a slow crumbling. Often our health can be a very kind of a slower moving tower. Um, but it is those moments that require change and transformation. And the the beautiful thing about having, divinatory systems, being able to use things like the tarot, it's really that mirror that allows us to tap into and uncover these moments that are already building in our lives. To fall out of a tower, there has to be a tower built, which can be personal, it can be collective. Yeah, there we go. From your cat.
Right. Yeah, that's from the Cat People Tarot. But I mean, look at that. Here's this tower falling apart. The people are falling out of it. Everything is going upside down. And we thought that the tower probably was going to last forever. And the truth is that no towers, nothing lasts forever. If nothing else, like death is a great example of that. When you die, that is a tower moment, right? You are going through a process of transformation and change. It's the end and the beginning.
So, how can tower become our ally?
I think that one of the most fundamental realizations I had around tower time and towers was a reading that I did for a client. And without getting into any details about that client, because that's not my story to tell, I will say this. We looked at the card and we're like, because I'd done a reading, she'd gone through a recent change and she was like, oh, it feels like I've already gone through this moment. And I looked at it and I said to her, what if we treated the tower as an opportunity? Yes, circumstances in your life have changed in ways that you didn't expect. But what if we treated it as an opportunity to get out of everything that wasn't working for you, to get rid of all the structures that are getting in your way so that you can walk a new path? And it was from that I had this realization that the tower essentially is this deep process of transformation that occurs where everything in your life that is not working, all the tower walls that you've built, everything else fall away. So the tower is an ally because it is clearing out what is not working in your life. And it's basically getting you to come to a place of clarity around what really matters.
Yeah, I think that one thing that we don't talk enough about, whether that's in magic or in life, is just the the fact of endings and destruction. And destruction is inherent in the creation process. Um, without without that destruction process, we stagnate, we settle into routines, we become very narrow, and the destruction or those tower moments, that is what really frees up all of that energy so that we can put it towards something new. And the harder we cling, the more uncomfortable it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's something that I've really learned a lot about, because I think, when I look at the last, I don't know, almost a decade now, I've had a number of different tower moments. I mean, I think that the thing is that, like, people try to get away from the tower as much as they possibly can. Like, you know, if I do a reading for somebody and the tower card comes up, it's kind of that moment of like instant freeze, like, oh my gosh, like, it's like, what can I do to avoid this? But the reality is that we're dealing with tower moments all the time.
Mhm.
I can say that it was in the last decade, but really even before then. It's just that in some ways, major towers in my life really came crashing down, and they needed to come crashing down. I wouldn't even be if you'd asked me a decade ago if I thought I was gonna be where I'm at today, I would have had no clue whatsoever that I was gonna be there or how I was gonna get there at all.
Mhm. Yeah, the beauty of being in tower moments is there is that ability to change and to create something new. But it is often, we have to sit in it first and really be with it and examine, how the tower was built, what our beliefs were around it, what our systems were around it, because otherwise we can just recreate it. And I think that that's kind of where we're at collectively right now. And so in Tower Time, the first half of our book is really all about our personal relationship and personal working with tower energy. So what happens when the towers in our lives do crumble and fall? How do we process it? How do we work with it magically? How do we reclaim that energy and put it into something new? And also, how do we look at the tower energies that may already be in our lives, kind of underneath the surface, um, so that we can bring them down in a controlled demolition so that we're not kind of caught off guard and caught within the cycles of the tower falling. And the second half of our book, which we never actually planned to do, it just kind of arose all on its own, was just a reflection of the tower moments that we're already in collectively. Um, we kind of start with, for us, really the pandemic was that kind of first, at least in our kind of generation, where collectively we were experiencing a tower moment together. There was like no escape from it. Um, and really collectively, we haven't processed a lot of what came up from that. And then you go into all of these other like big global events that are affecting and shaking the towers of all of us. And then we're looking at, oh, what are the structures that we're actually in that created all of these structures in the first place? Your patriarchy, your capitalism, your racism, like all colonialism, all of the isms are that underlying structure of all of our towers that are now rising to the surface. So what do we do about it together and collectively? So that's um, when we're talking about being able to use the the energy of the tower and to use it for our benefit, it's really um, the ability to highlight these structures and figure them out together. And that's bringing them down. That's sitting in the rubble and going, okay, we have all of these pieces. What do we do with it now? And what do we build together in the future?
Yeah, and there's something really something that's really important about the tower is that the more you try to avoid it or resist it or try to keep the tower up, the harder and longer these moments become.
Mhm.
But if you can work with the tower, if you can accept that, okay, here it is, here's the tower, everything is, crumbling or falling apart or whatever it is, there's something really powerful about that experience and being able to recognize that, yes, things have become what they've become and we have opportunities and choices here.
Yeah, so how do you think that like tower energy can be one of our biggest allies? Like what does that actually look like in your magical process?
So, I've shared a few stories in the book, but I'll share one that I think is really relevant to this. Um, I just gotten divorced. It was back in 2021, and I was living at a friend's house where there was cat pee on the floor every day. I was definitely going through a tower moment. I had lost pretty much everything. I'd been kicked out of the house that I lived in. I had basically had everything that I had was boiled down to a car, 10 boxes of like books and some clothes. That was it. And I could have, and I wasn't even like, this was in the wake of the pandemic. So I wasn't even like working at a conventional job or anything. I ended up doing DoorDash for a while, which was actually exactly what I needed at the time. I just drove around and delivered food. Perfect time, perfect time, perfect moment because I could just be with myself and like still have some interaction with people, but not like have it be too significant. And it was just kind of like my reality was just falling apart, tumbling apart in the wake of everything that I'd gone through. And I treated it as a moment like where I leaned into it and I'm like, okay, like I have no idea what's going to happen next. And I ended up doing a significant amount of magical working after about a month or so of being in this tower. Like I didn't do magic right away.
Mhm.
And that's actually something I would say like in the wake of a significant event, life-changing event like a divorce or something like that, I don't recommend doing magic right away. I do recommend like taking some time to just be with what's happened. But I started doing magic because at some point I was like, all right, I've got to move forward with my life. I don't want to stay in this house any longer than I have to. Um, I don't want to be dealing with some of the other things that I'm dealing with. I need to move forward with my life. And did a lot of magical workings with Saturn. And that kind of brought its own existential awareness to everything because it was about setting boundaries and working within limits. And it was working with that tower energy because, in a very real sense, I was trying to figure out like, do I want to rebuild my tower? Do I go somewhere else? What is it I do? And ultimately, I did this working with Saturn where I was like, I thought I was going to do it to like find a place to live with a friend in Portland. Instead, what Saturn did is he peeled back the curtains and he's like, well, here's multiple places or here's multiple layers of reality that you can operate in right now. Why don't you go and explore those? And for like the next month, I ended up exploring different possible jobs and other things that I could do. I still ended up back at the same place, but it gave me a lot of clarity because I was like, oh, okay, like I know that I don't want to, I know what I don't want. And I needed that. And that was like part of what this Harrow moment was about. And then finally I got that clarity and I figured out what I did want. And I ended up moving to a new place to live, a new city it started my life over there. And I'm not going to say that everything just suddenly became hunky dory and perfect, but it did start to set the foundation on which I could rebuild my life. I still had some towers to go through relationally, but I got through those towers as well. And again, it kind of clarified like what I didn't want so that I could focus in on what I did want. And so I think the tower can be an ally because it basically says like, look, here's what's not working in your life. And you have a choice. You can either try to rebuild it again, or you can take it apart and leave it and go and find something different. Your choice. And that was a really significant moment for me. It was realizing.
What I love about your story is the focus on tower moments being very exclusive. I mean, sometimes our towers fall like, within community and, you know, with the people that we're in most similarity with. But what the tower really does is it does show us everything that is not working and allows us to see very clearly what we don't want. It almost like being in that energy forces us to make a decision, to make a stand and be like, I'm saying yes to this and I'm saying no to that. So the exclusionary aspect of tower energy is really interesting to me.
So how about you? What's a story that you can share?
Hmm. I think, well, I mean, the tower that brought us to the point of writing the book is always an interesting one. Um, I had a rather combustible experience in the community that my husband and I were living in at the time, and we just went like, it's so toxic, and it's kind of killing me. And we had the opportunity to move, so we did that, and I kind of went into this like really long recovery period. Um, and then all of my towers were all around community, around community, around community. It was just like, oh, okay, yep, this is just another layer. Um, but the result of all of that was like my health took a massive tank. Um, I I was killing myself basically, trying to overgive, trying to make everything work, trying to hold everything together. And by the time that I had rediscovered Taylor's work, I was like at kind of rock bottom. I was waiting for test results. I was kind of in this process of like looking at my health and going, there's, it's not, you can't really deny it after a certain amount of time. It just kind of all kind of culminated at once. And I'm like, okay, well, I have to do something about it. And kind of the mundane avenues weren't really working for me. And so I somehow, and I still don't even know how I got on your list. But out of the blue, I saw that Taylor was doing a class on inner alchemy, and I'm like, well, talking to everyone else isn't working, so maybe if I start talking to myself. And but again, I still wanted to do it in community. I wanted to have that live experience. Um, so I joined the inner alchemy class, and that just really was that kind of really painful self exploration process because you know it really causes, at least for me, it was like, okay, how am I contributing to it? What's happening? What is my body trying to tell me? And sitting with some of those realizations can be really hard. So I was very grateful that we had a community to do it in. um, but and that one's, it's still kind of ongoing, but the willingness to be in the moments and also be with other people in various ways that can like help and support or just have presence really does make a difference. Which is also why a lot of the activities and the explorations that we do and share in tower time are partner and group activities because I think that having the community around is super important.
I agree with that. I think, a saving grace for me was that I found several communities that helped me to really pull out of that tower experience. I mean, on the one hand, the tower experience is kind of like it's like everything falls away, and on the other hand, it also is like also calling in what's really important.
Mhm.
So finding that sense of community and connection can be significantly important, and we don't have to go through things alone. And a lot of times when people think that they have to go through it alone, it's because it's that becomes its own tower as well.
Oh, totally. You know, as you know, a lot of our self-identifications, our egoic structures, our identity structures are very, you know, singular. Being hyper self-sufficient, always being the independent one, isolation, and so many of these like towers or defense structures that we've created around ourselves are kind of encouraged by society and by the larger structures that we're born into because it keeps us separate, it keeps us safe, and really it keeps us small and controllable. So,
Just taking a deep breath for a moment because letting all that land in our systems is really important. And there's something really significant about recognizing how something changes in our lives and like giving ourselves the space to fully accept and embrace and acknowledge it without trying to rush through it.
yeah, I know it's one of the things that I've been the most guilty of. Um, it's always that, and again, that's a fight or flight response. It's like, oh, I have to fix it. I have to solve it. I have to get through it as fast as possible. Um, and that's a very common response when we're dealing with tower energies. It's like, I need to be able to control it.
Hmm. And that kind of leads me to wondering, like, well, where that illusion of control comes from. And I think in a lot of magical practice, we actually see that because it's like, one thing I'll observe is that a lot of times people will do magic to cling to the status quo. Like, okay, here's this change that's coming that I don't want, or I want things to be a certain way in my life. So I'm going to do magic in order to get that result that makes things a certain way. And yet, there's something really powerful about allowing everything to fall away precisely because it needs to go away.
Yeah. And I think also within that, though, we don't necessarily want everything to fall away. I think in order to be fully present and embodied in the tower energy and in tower time work is what it does help you do is refine and clarify who you are at your core, at your essence, underneath everything. And it kind of allows that to be amplified and uncovered. And that is also what, that's the certainty. That's the essence of you that allows for to be present with everything.
Yeah, that is what really matters. It's like it's coming through. It's like, okay, everything's been stripped away, but you're still here. And then you have a choice. You can either rebuild the tower or try and build a different one, or you can walk out of the rubble and go on a journey of discovery. I think it's telling that right after the tower comes the star.
Tell us about the star.
Well, so think about the star is like that's like, like there's that saying like seek the North Star, seek your at least in the northern hemisphere, we've got the North Star. That's like the one, so it's like seek that star that is going to kind of like help you stay on your true north, stay on the right path. Like, so it's like the tower has stripped everything away that doesn't work and it's left you at the bottom and you can rebuild it. You have that option. And sometimes people will do exactly that. They will rebuild the tower. Maybe they'll make a few changes, but they'll just rebuild it. But then you also have the opportunity to walk out of the rubble and there's the star shining, glimmering, saying, hey, seek me, find me. And the star is kind of that true north, that essential glimmer that says, like, come to the path that makes the most sense to you. Come back to yourself. And so I think, when I think of the tower as an ally, I think of the tower as the ally that kind of says, like, hey, here's what's not working in your life. And then the star is like on the other side of that. And it's like, hey, and here's what could be working in your life. So it's an invitation into the imaginal wondering of what could be.
Hmm. I like that. It's a beautiful way to put it. So, what are some of the gifts that have come out of your tower time moments?
Hmm. You know, I think what the biggest gift that the tower has brought me is that it has pulled me out of everything that wasn't working.
Mhm.
In 2017, I was in a situation where I basically lived kind of like a bifurcated life. Like I had a business and I had magical experiments, but like I wasn't like completely congruent. It was like I was trying to live two different existences. And then that fell away. And then my dad died. And that was its own thing. Like when a parent dies, that is a tower moment. Like that is one of the pillars of your life that is going away. And whatever your relationship with that parent is, it changes everything. Like if you had a bad relationship, if you had a good relationship, because it's like, well, at that point, that relationship has fundamentally changed. And then, the pandemic, of course, which everyone was going through. But then there was the experience of the divorce. Like, if I look back, I see all these layers of things that were not working in my life kind of falling away. And there were lots of reasons they weren't working. Some of those reasons were me and the way that I held on to certain, putting certain walls up or not being completely 100% in an integrity or honesty with myself or with other people. Some of them were things that like the pandemic. I had no control over that. That was just something that was happening and being experienced. And what I found is that as those towers occurred, it brought me face to face with all the things that I needed to face about myself that I hadn't been facing. And it also brought me toward community.
Mhm.
It brought me to, it brought me to the men's work, which has been really powerful for me because it's helped me become a much healthier, much more embodied and mature man who's not letting his stuff come out sideways, which I'd been doing in a lot of my life. It's helped me find a martial arts community. And it's helped me find a lot of other things. It's helped me find you. And you're part of that, like it was just kind of this the clarity to find somebody who was willing to walk the path of community and magical experimentation with me and had a similar mindset and experience is huge. It's not something that can just easily be found. And I think it taught me along the way a lot about like, well, what does it take to actually have a sense of stability in a person's life? Because on the outside, it can look like someone's stable when on the inside, they're really not. And it's that internal structure that kind of determines whether or not there are cracks in the foundation that are going to cause that tower to fall apart or not. And so, in a very real sense, I got the opportunity um, to really take a good hard look at my foundations and see where there were cracks and make some significant changes. And what about you? Let's turn that question back around.
First, I would just like to say welcome to Erica and Cauldron Conversations. We are talking Tower Times. If you have any tips or thoughts or musings about how you work with towers, we would love to hear from you as well. So please feel free to let us know in the chat and we can read those out. We always appreciate having everyone's voice in the room as much as we can digitally. Can you remind me of the question I asked you?
You asked me what, like, basically, like, what came out of your tower moments that was ultimately, like, beneficial.
Mm. Yeah, I think for me that there's a clarity and there's a precision that arises out of our tower times and our tower moments and our towers falling that I don't really think I could have gotten any other way. Um, and I am very exclusive. I understand what I want by seeing what I don't want. That allows me to kind of like hone in on the things that are very valuable and important to me. Community, being in relationship with myself, with nature, with my body, with you know, with others. And tower times have kind of that way of just stripping everything away, um, and helping you see what's really important. Um, and I think my relationship with myself, um, and the ability to really witness and be with myself in a way that isn't in it all the time. Um, I think that has been one of the most beautiful aspects of doing tarot work. Um, and there is that I think tarot work has really refined my curiosity. Because when things do start to crumble and fall down, it's like I'm always go like, well, why did it happen? Why did this happen? Why did this happen? And so there's a certain amount of that, and then that somewhere in the middle of it, the question turns to, oh, and what can I do next? And um, the the towers that we build, whether they're external or internal, there is so much energy and magic kind of wrapped up in them. It's it's our experience in solid form in some way. So when the towers come down, all of that um, magical, energetic, psychic, emotional, mental energy is released, and it's a very powerful time. Um, it's like as part of that destruction process, there's that possibility and opening that's created for something totally new, um, and that's a really fun time to be in.
Hmm. It is a fun time to be in when we can get into the imaginal, like, oh, well, what could life be like, or what could happen? I think, I think one of the benefits of the tower is that, like, yes, it shakes down life as you know it, but it also opens the doors for life as it could be. And that could mean like moving to another part of the world. It could mean going after that career that you or that business that you never thought that you were going to do, but that you really wanted to.
Mhm.
Now, it looks like we got a question here from Jane. Tower times is often multiple stresses. What's the first step moving into magic from negative emotions like sadness or shock? Thank you for the question, Jane. I actually want to say that I don't think that sadness is a negative emotion. I think it's if there's negativity there, the negativity is perceived because sadness and grief is actually something it's real and needed. Like it's not fun to experience. I'll grant you that. I will grant you that. It is not. It's not like it's like, oh, hey, I want to be sad today. Yay! Like, no, that's not it. But I mean, sadness and grief are a very integral part. So if I was to look at like what the first step of moving into magic from an emotion is, it would really be actually allowing myself to have the emotion. Now, there is a difference between sadness and shock. With shock, what I would recommend doing is actually doing some Taoist breathing meditation practices or some type of breathing meditation practice where you're able to somatically process that experience of shock. Because if you can process the shock as soon as possible, you're actually going to move that energy out of your body, and that's really good for you. We don't want that energy to stay in the body. We want to move it along. So those are two different responses based on two different scenarios. What would you say to those, Sheena?
Yeah, I had to laugh a little bit because yesterday I was pretty much on the floor in the grief and in the sadness and a whole bunch of, we've been in this process for a while and we just keep there's just more layers and more layers. And yesterday, like everything just kind of came through. So I think feeling it and allowing yourself to feel it is very important. Um, for something like shock, um, especially, and it depends if you're talking about like the physiological, like actual shock that's happening into your body. You do want to be, you know, if you're, and we do mention in the book as well that if you are actively processing and working with tower energy, it is really important to have some sort of, it might be a friend, it might be a therapist, it might be a community. I think we're going to be offering some opportunities to do some of this tower time work in group and in community because it's just that important to have that holding. Um, and for something like shock, it's really important to address that first. So, like, there are some somatic practices that are kind of more like first aid practices in a way. Um, kind of bilateral stimulation, kind of doing a butterfly tap can be really good to just kind of bring your system down. And yeah, it's just back and forth, something like that. You can give yourself a self hug. So you go under the armpit, and so just you're giving yourself some constriction. Um, please don't put that on the internet. um, but it is supporting your body through the process. There's been some really interesting studies around how working with emergency response, um, uh, like paramedics and things like that, and with soldiers in how their immediate activities afterwards, even something like playing Tetris, oddly, it's something that allows the to go through the system. Trauma is unintegrated information, and it happens in isolation. Um, so the best way to process trauma is really in community. Um, I use the example of snowflakes. So if a snowflake is falling on like a frozen riverbed all by itself, like it accumulates. It can accumulate in your system. It's harder to clear out. If a snowflake lands on a bigger body of water, a lake that's not frozen or an ocean or being in community, it doesn't always turn into trauma. It can be processed and metabolized through um, and held in group. So that's if you're feeling into shock or going into disassociation or numbness, always find your way into community of some sort or getting that extra help. Borrowing someone else's nervous system for co-regulation can be really important. But you can do some of your most beautiful magic from states of sadness, or the what we might call of our negative emotions, allowing it to inform your magical practice.
And we have a book coming out about that very topic on June 23rd and called Tower Time. And you can pre-order it directly from us. And when you do, we even have a special pre-order bonus, a free class. Can you pop those into the chat, Sheena?
Maybe.
Um,
Nope, we're gonna have to put it.
okay.
Oh, let me just see.
Let's see here, because we can do that. That'd be great. But if not,
I have far too many tabs open.
okay. Well, that's all right. Okay. Well, what we'll do is we will put that in the transcript here. But you can pre-order if you pre-order a copy from us. And actually, I'm just gonna throw in. Fortunately, I'm a pretty fast typer here, even when thumbed. Um, oh, okay. Never mind. Yeah. If you want to pre-order the book there, you can. And it's an opportunity for you to learn those practices. Cauldron Conversation said, I'm still living in my tower moment. That was 5 years ago. I blew my life up and moved abroad. Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing, like tower time can be an extended period of time because it is a significant change. And I guess the thing that I would also share with that is that, like, again, like, what's the star? What's the true north that's calling to you? So yes, you're living abroad now. Like, what's the star that's shining through the clouds, through the rubble?
Yeah. And I think also, sometimes a tower time can be a negative event that like sparks change and things like that. And sometimes our tower times are good things as well. Um, you know, Graduating from like high school or university and finding yourself into the world in an can be a tower time experience. Making a positive move can be a tower time experience too, because we tend to think of tower times as being like these negative, and that's how they're kind of portrayed. But it really is just that energy of like everything that is not working falling away.
Yeah, well, there you go. And I love what Cauldron says. It's why I left to be in my most authentic life and it's been dark and beautiful. Well, beautiful. That is exactly it. Like, kind of the same thing. Like I had a lot of things fall away. There's definitely been some moments that have been hard, but I would not exchange any of it to go back to the life I used to live. I'm much happier now, much more present and embodied and aware than I was. So it's worth it.
It's
So let's I think we're gonna wrap up here. And so first I want to thank everyone who came, and then Sheena did put the link in there, but also it'll be in the show notes here in a little bit for those of you if you want to pre-order either the paperback or ebook directly from us. You will definitely get a special bonus, which is a free class of your choice. There's three choices, but it's a free class that you can explore some of our stuff, and so it's just a wonderful way to support indie authors and get something extra special.
what are
Any
the
fun? Huh?
what are the three classes?
Oh yeah, how magic works, which is which where we explore our 7-step process for like creating consistent results with magic. Meditation made simple. If you've ever struggled with meditation, this class is great. It teaches you a simple meditation technique and shows you all the ways you can apply magic to it. And then strategic magic, where you get to take like a high level view of your life and your magic and start designing it very purposely. So those are the 3 classes. That you get one of those classes as our way of saying thank you for pre-ordering the book directly from us.
Yeah, and I think that they all, wherever you are in tower time, one of those classes is going to be really supportive of that. Whether you are dealing with like kind of like the physical effects of and the embodied effects of being in tower moments, or you're looking at the strategic magic to see, oh, what in your life isn't working, if you're looking more with like using the tower energy as um, you know, actively so that you're maybe lessening the effects of them or mitigating the effects of them, or you're just starting out and you really want to understand the basics of how your magic is constructed. And then you can kind of also apply that to what you're building going forward as well. So it's exciting.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here. And we're really glad that you're here. We're going to be soon. We're going to be getting back to doing more podcasts together. We've been in a little bit of a tower process as well. We had to make some changes thanks to some technology things, and so but it's opening up to something really exciting, and we're going to be opening the doors to a deeper community engagement as well, which we'll get into down the line. So, really looking forward to that, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day.